All right, welcome back, folks. This is Yankees Unloaded. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. And we're finally back with a Yankees win edition of the show. They snap a potential 4-game losing streak. They lost 3 straight. Felt really weird on this podcast. Obviously, you and I have a blast talking about baseball just in general, but yeah, it wasn't starting to feel great. And Gary, I mean, we had plenty of communication throughout this game. You and I had both admitted, like, I think it was back in the 7th inning when Toronto scored 2. This game was cooked. And then the Yankees came out of nowhere with 5 runs in the last 2 innings. And, I'm just going to say, yes, feel excited, feel happy this happened, but also feel relieved because, a friend of mine had mentioned, shout out to Evan. He had mentioned that it's almost more important, even if you lost the first 2 games of a series, it's almost more important that final game because that is how you're going to leave that series and go on into the next. And, I tweeted this out, Gary. I thought, the way I worded it was the Guardians' 10th inning loss absorbed all the good vibes from the Yankees, and they went into this series kind of flat. Now, players contributed, they had their moments, but it still felt very flat. Today's win, I think, is what's going to be able to, push them back to where they were. But yeah, what are your thoughts
We
on
stole
that?
that. We stole that game.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the best part is I was actually tweeting about it before. I wasn't looking forward to podcasting a 4th straight loss. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's just not fun. It's not as fun recapping an ass whooping, if you will. So my takeaway is that having watched that game, if we had lost that game, we scored 1 in the 8th, and then of course we scored the 4 in the 9th, which was awesome. That's all we were asking for, is them to score runs at some point in this series. They hadn't done that. And you can say that Stroman pitched really well today, and I love the way he pitched. And I believe he would have pitched longer had it not been for the situation. We ended up bringing Ian Hamilton into the game, which ended up working out just fine. But having said that, think of the storyline if we had lost this game. We'd all be
Oh my
sitting here
God.
saying, is this the right decision having Volpe at leadoff? Ever since we made that change, it seems like the lineup's been a little out of whack. We're getting nothing out of Gabe Torres. Okay. Verdugo's swung an okay bat. And then also, what's happening with Wells and Trevino? We really would have no clue what we're getting from those 2 guys. So, and then also, you also mentioned Cabrera. We would start having a tug of war of, do we move him up the lineup? So when you start losing, you start making decisions that are more out of frustration than out of logic, which, not saying Cabrera moving up in the lineup is void of logic, but you tend to make mistakes and just get overhyped about different decisions that the Yankees are making. And so I say all that to say this Yankees team pretty much had no heartbeat for 2 3/4 of a game. They were non-existent, irrelevant. The
Yeah.
at-bats were terrible. The discipline was non-existent. It was just flat out not there. And interestingly enough, Toronto's plate discipline and their ability to grind at bats, they look like us this weekend.
I know.
They
The
look like
free
us.
swinging Toronto Blue Jays had discipline. I mean, that was surprising. 11 strikeouts today for the Yankees, 5 for the Blue Jays. Gary, there were 3 guys who struck out 3 times. Judge, Rizzo, and Torres.
That's ugly.
And they still won. That's crazy.
What's interesting, though, let me say this about the strikeouts. And I think that Yankees fans as a unit would agree with this take. Striking out sucks. It's not fun.
No.
It's not effective. It's not anything. But having said that, I don't really read too much into how much we strike out. Remember, I said coming into this game, what I care about is grinding at bats. I need to see 2 3-ball counts. I need to see walks. I need to see better swings. That has nothing to do with the result. If I see those things, I know the results will take care of themselves. And the Yankees never did any of that until the 8th. I know it just so happens to be when the runs were scored, But if you actually go back and watch those innings, all of a sudden the at-bats got better. All of a sudden the takes got better. You mentioned early in the game, Jake, and this was a really good point. It seemed like Aaron Judge was afraid to take strike one. Pointless. You're Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is the best player on the field between both these teams. The best player. And that's saying a lot with Juan Soto on the field. So having said that, he needs to make sure his approach is there. His swing, he might be fouling off pitches down the middle, but as long as you know you're Aaron Judge, your approach needs to be of Aaron Judge. And as
Yeah.
long as that's happening, we're eventually going to score our runs. We, for whatever reason, in the 8th inning decided we have to go back to the approach that we had. And it worked. And I didn't expect it to happen. I don't think anyone, being honest and arguing with good faith, would say that they predicted that would have happened. The Yankees didn't really give us any reason to believe that that was going to happen. And that's why we play 9 innings, ladies and gentlemen. So we're very happy to say that this Yankees team stole this game, because now we go back to Yankee Stadium playing a Tampa team. Thank goodness we're not going to that little dumpster fire they have in St. Petersburg, Florida. That is it Tropicana. We're not going to play at that portal potty. We're going to Yankee Stadium. So let's ride.
Yeah, and Tampa kind of same thing as the Rays right now. They're 10-8, so they're
floating by.
They're floating by, exactly. Yeah, is it me or did Juan Soto play pretty much perfect baseball today? I mean, 3 for 3 with 2 walks, a home run, 2 ribbies, a run, and he had a huge assist that no one is going to talk about because that was during the game in which the game looked like it was done. But he threw Kiermaier out at second. That was huge. Outs were not easy to get today. So that was big. A big reason why the Yankees were able to steal this one is because, they continued, despite the fact they were out of it, there was no sulking at the end of the game.
Can we give Gabe Torres some credit, by the way? Gabe Torres looked lost. He didn't look like he had a clue what was happening on the baseball field. And then he gets to his last at bat, and he found a way to grind an at bat and make something happen. Now, it wasn't much, goes the other way, right? But having said that, if you looked at most of the time, and I would say this in years past, if you watch any Yankee, you could take your pick. If they look atrocious in their first 2 at bats, you'd be hard pressed to find a player that's going to look decent in his 3rd or 4th at bat after those first 2. You're not going to see that in this lineup. Look up and down the lineup. A lot of guys had 1 hit today. It's because eventually they looked atrocious and then they figured it out later in the game. The one player, and you said this, Jake, Juan Soto being arguably the best pure hitter in Major League Baseball. The reason we come up with those terms like pure hitter, and a lot of us already know this, but I wanted to make sure we reiterate it, is that they dominate adjustments. That's the whole game. It's not that you're saying, oh, he's the best hitter in baseball, because I think there's a lot of argument. There's better hitters in baseball. But if you're looking at what Juan Soto actually does, you might dominate him in his first at bat of a game. But the good news about someone like Juan Soto and why it's so contagious in our lineup is that you're not going to get him out the second time the same way you did in the first inning. That's what I love to see. And when you see players like Cabrera, who sat and where did he hit 8th today? He was making adjustments and grinding the whole day. Now, I know he got rewarded. He had 2 hits, so everyone looks good when they have 2 hits. But if you watch his first at bat and then watch his last at bat, you're seeing a completely different hitter. And that's what I love to see. So I'm just paying attention to the type of at bats we take, because in my opinion, if we take those type of at bats, regardless of how much we harp on result, we're going to win 95 to 100 games. And that's saying a lot.
Yeah. I liked, I think coming into this year, I said 95 games that they would win. 94,
you did.
95.
And I think I said 90. What did I say, 93?
Yeah, we were both in the 90s. I mean, we both felt like this team was going to make the playoffs. And I think I had them going to the ALCS. It was kind of in, like, the thing is, like, last year, I just thought that they had a chance to win the World Series, and just, the wheels came off with all the injuries and everything. They also just weren't as good of a team as this one. So, it was kind of an incomplete I guess, prediction. And yeah, I mean, I see ALCS. I don't know if necessarily they win that or lose it, but that's what I saw coming into the year. Now, there are still question marks. There are question marks right now about this team, but I thought their ability to rally in the eighth and ninth, and they've been doing this, but actually pull it off and not tease us again.
What's
I,
the
I
biggest
mean,
question mark though? Like in your opinion? Because I do think that this team has, I wouldn't call them issues. We have dilemmas. We definitely have two-way streets. We can go one of two ways when it comes to what we do at catcher, right? Um, like there's different things about
got to
this
give
team.
Trevino a lot of credit. That was huge.
It was big, which by the way, I remember because you were saying you were against him pinch hitting at that point,
Yeah, I
and
was.
I was actually saying, so this is the reason behind my opinion. So for people who obviously weren't there for our text thread, which is literally everybody here listening, I said that I actually like Trevino coming out and pinch hitting. And the reason for that was because I really did not like Austin Wells at bat that he had in the fifth inning. Now, let me explain exactly what happened. There was a man on second base. I believe it was Cabrera hit a double down the line.
Sounds about right.
And yep, sounds about right. And the first two pitches of those at bats, like it was the first two or three pitches of that at bat, he got a fastball inside and he didn't swing. Now, again, that happens in Major League Baseball. Players don't swing at strikes. That all happens in hopes that you get a better pitch to hit, right? That's the goal. But when I saw Wells hitting that at bat, he eventually ends up lining out to shortstop. I saw a player who took an outside fastball and went the other way, which for those of you who watch this team, they know Austin Wells to be a left-handed hitter. Now, Austin Wells should be looking for a fastball inside so he can pull the ball and make a productive out for this team. He's been making excellent contact essentially the whole year, okay? But part of being a good baseball player, and he's going to learn this, and Jake really believes he'll learn this and become a really good player, is that you come into an at bat and you need to know what the team's trying to do in that at bat. Sometimes it's just get a hit or hit a home run. Like the situation is much more, it's much more cut and dry. But when you have a situation and you have a young player, man on second base with nobody out, you have a leadoff double, and you're not hacking at a pitch on the inner part of the plate for you to pull the ball, you have to know that as a baseball player. You have to know that. Whether you get hits or not, we'll get players in there who can, if you obviously can't accomplish that. But the mental side of the game, I didn't like that he wasn't prepared. Now, Justin Turner, who's a veteran player, later on in the game in the sixth inning, Bichette hit a leadoff double. And what'd you see? You saw first pitch fastballs inside. Now, the reason for that, the Yankees were trying to get him to pull the ball. He didn't offer. The next pitch of the at bat was a fastball and breaking ball away. He was swinging at both, trying to go the other way. So that's the type of adjustment that I want to see Austin Wells make. I don't have any doubts that he can hit in this league, but some of those adjustments, they need to be made faster.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, when you have, Cabrera, I mean, runs are hard to come by today. You have Cabrera on second. You want to see Wells pull the ball. It's his best chance where, yeah, like you said, productive out. If you get him to fly out to right field, now it's more likely than not he's going to tag from second to third. If he flies out to left field, like he goes opposite way, he better hit a home run, because if he flies out, he's not tagging from second to third. That's going to be a bang, bang play. They might not even send him. So, no, I get that. I mean, I think Wells, it's bound to just start working. Because I mean, I've seen the numbers on Fangraphs. It doesn't even make sense. It really does not make sense. It is insane that Wells is batting a buck right now. It
Are you
really
talking
is.
about because of his exit velo?
Not just that, but just, he's putting it in play, and just you saw the other day he hits it over the middle, and there's a guy right there. Like, why is there a guy right there? You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like it's been a lot of unlucky things have happened. It's early on the season. It's still the first month. I expect that to change, but, Gary, going back to Trevino, I mean, we've given him a lot of crap on this channel, and rightfully so. Like he was playing horribly to start the season, wasn't even great at catcher, but he's been throwing guys out. He had a really nice pinch hit single, that knocked in a run. And then, you talk about his home run and like he's actually one of the hottest hitters right now on the team. I mean, by definition, which is kind
Yeah,
of
we can't
crazy to
lie on
think
this
about.
broadcast. We never
Yeah.
will. He has been hitting, and you have to give him credit. Whether you think Wells and Jake does, I do. We believe that Wells should be starting pretty much every game that he's ready to go, but you can't take away the results that have happened. Trevino has swung a hot bat, and to be quite honest with you, without him today, we don't win. So I didn't think we'd be in this game at all, but
Yeah.
I mean, we have to give, and I did, like I said before, I like that Boone brought him out just because the mental side of the game wasn't sharp today from Wells. I know that he made solid contact, all that. Like I thought he caught a pretty good game behind the plate. It just, at bat wise, in terms of execution, they needed someone who was going to show up prepared at the plate. And I believe that will come for Wells. I don't really have any doubt about that. It's just a matter of if he can keep up the hard contact, which, by the way, this leads me to the biggest question, because on Twitter, I had a conversation with Mariners great Mike Cameron, and we were talking about exit velocity as a hitter. And what's so funny about that is I immediately thought of Austin Wells and the fact that he's hitting basically, he's an agent. He's hitting 007 right now. He's not getting hits. But if you watch the game, he's raking. And it's just so interesting because it just seems like he can't get a break. But the question was whether or not it's a hitter's job to make hard contact all the time, or is it his job to actually get the results, no matter how you're getting it. And we both argued, and I think we both agreed that, me and Mike Cameron, that is, that in some point or another, it's your job to hit the ball hard the way that Wells is. But at the same time, if you're not getting hits over an extended period of time, the exit velo at some point has to mean less, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, right now we're looking at game 20 on Friday.
Yep.
At some point you have to imagine it's going to start turning in his favor, because if it doesn't, then at that point, even if it does seem unlucky, like he's got to make an adjustment.
Right.
So,
at what point would you say that point was? Like, where would you put that baseline? Is it game 100 in the season? Because obviously there's a lot of games. Where would you say that is?
I mean, this is kind of I would say it's a fragile thing because it's a young hitter. His confidence is in the water right now. Let's just be honest. He doesn't look very confident. He still goes up there. I'm not saying he doesn't try and hit the ball and, he's an automatic out, but you can see like it's starting to bother him. And I think changing your approach when this was your game plan and it was working in spring training this early on the season is really fragile. Like, I don't know if you can just screw around with his mechanics and things like that. And I think that's just something, Rowson has a tough job. There's a reason why they're paying him a lot of money to be that guy. He'll figure it out. He will. I have no issue with that. What I'll say, though, is that if he doesn't, Cabrera, you're watching him and they make it a point because Michael K is aware of what's going on, which is why I love, he's not just your stereotypical play-by-play guy. Like he also can do some color. I'm not saying he's 100% the color guy, but I think he's very similar to like Joe Buck. He has context. He's not just being play-by-play. And the reason I say that is because, Michael K will come out and say things like, Cabrera's hitting well. He's sure not going to give up that third base job easily. And that's exactly what I want to see Wells doing. I want Wells to go up there and be like, there's no way Trevino is taking this job from me.
I'm sure he feels that way. I'm sure he does.
Yes,
it's just that
but I want to see it start showing up. Like it sucks to see him just. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's bad luck.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because he's not, and this is another thing. He's not Adam Dunn. He's not Anthony Rizzo before the shift. He's not doing one thing. He's having great at-bats. He's forcing, these big counts. He's fouling off pitch after pitch. He's hitting them close to the warning track. Then he's hitting bullets over the middle, and there just happens to be a shortstop there.
Also, you have to remember, Jake, he's a part-time player right now.
Well,
He's
that's
not
another
getting
thing.
consistent at bats
I think
because
it really
give
hurts
Cabrera.
I think it
Yes.
hurts his, that's why we were so against Cabrera sitting for 3 games.
Can you believe that? First of all,
I
let's
hope
give
we
Cabrera,
never see that again. Because remember
which
what it
we might
was?
not.
It was the lefty-righty matchup. Have you seen the way he's been hitting righty? Doesn't matter. I want him out there.
Yeah. No, I think that most Yankees fans agree. Like, if a dude's hitting over 300 and he's a switch hitter, you can't tell me that a dude who's hitting over 300, you don't want to see him because a lefty's on the mound and we see 3 in a row. So that dude who's the hot bat
I know.
is not playing.
It's silly.
So you've got a hot bat who you had to play on a Sunday night. He played well Sunday. Hey man, thanks, great job. See you Thursday next week. What are we talking about? This is not rocket science, okay?
No.
It doesn't take a genius to say one of our best hitters hits better against righties than he does lefties, but he's the hot bat, so we got to get him in there. That's obvious, okay? And again, Aaron Boone's been making great decisions overall this season. So I've given him a ton of credit. I know I have, especially for people that don't know this, who are just watching. This is our first show that you're seeing. I've given Boone a ton of credit.
We both have, yeah.
But I am going to criticize the fact that you cannot have one of your hottest hitters just sitting on the bench because it just so happens that 3 left-handed pitchers are throwing in a row. That doesn't work. The Yankees right now as a lineup are a bit inconsistent, but in general, their approach has been more consistent. So we expect it to work, but you can't deliberately take out what we said was like their 3rd best hitter in the whole lineup at the time, because that's lunacy. And we don't have some big time option. We got Birdie coming off the bench. He's a solid player. It's not Cabrera right now.
He's injured now.
He's injured now, but like, come on.
DJ will be back though. My thing is, at what point is DJ not a third baseman and you're looking at him more as a second and first baseman? Because Cabrera, who we thought was going to be, he's not the answer, whatever, he's made adjustments. And we talked about this, throughout the game today. And I said, I don't think this is a fluke. I don't think this is one of those, it's only been the first 20 games of the year. I think the adjustments are going to last. His batting average won't be above 300 the whole year, in my opinion. I think it drops down to maybe 275. And I think that's how he finishes the season.
That's a great year.
But exactly. You wouldn't take a 275 year from Oswaldo Cabrera, then you are way too picky. And my thing is, you don't want to take Glaber necessarily out of the lineup, but he's been an issue with the errors. And the same thing goes for Rizzo, who I thought should have gotten an error today.
Oh my God. How was that not an error? Jake, how is that not an error?
Is it the same stat keeper who overturned the Miami Marlins game from 10 years ago? So he could screw over Carlos Rodon and bail out Rizzo's error.
It had to have been, Jake. How was that possibly a hit?
Their argument was that he has no chance of making the play. My thing is, it's still an error regardless. That is, so they were saying he had no chance of getting to first, right? I saw that on Twitter. That was the combination, is that he had no chance of getting to first. I get what they're saying because, hear me out here. I get what they're saying because Stroman's coming over and he's in Stroman's path. So not only is it an error, I would say it's a mental error as well, because he's literally trying to get over and he's right in the path of Stroman. So Stroman can't cover the base and he drops the ball anyway. I mean, we got to call a spade a spade. Rizzo has struggled this year defensively to the point where, I mean, hey, you're giving Stanton days off. Okay, those can be the days Rizzo's DHing because we like the bat. I'll take 240 from Rizzo, right? I'm not saying he's been amazing this year and he struck out 3 times today, but I'll take his bat. But I am totally fine seeing what DJ LeMahieu can do at first, because I don't remember him making errors like this. I
Well, I
don't
mean,
remember
just
it.
because we can see their logic as to why they made a decision doesn't mean it's the right one.
Yeah.
And just the same as I can see people's logic when they say that the earth is flat. I get why they think that. You look out, if you go to the ocean and you just look out to the ocean, you go, it looks flat.
If you
That's
don't use science, then yeah, it does.
if you ignore science and you look out there, you'd think that the earth was flat. Okay? That's the logic. Just because that logic exists doesn't mean it's not completely stupid. That was stupid. That was an error. And just to bring the point home about Rizzo's defense, which I expect at some point it's got to get better.
Yeah.
He's just indecisive about what he doesn't look confident out there, which is weird. This is not
Very
like
weird.
he's just booting the ball. If you watch his errors, he's getting choppers, he's trying to play back on it. Oh wait, I want to charge it. These are mistakes that you usually see out of a first year first baseman. Okay. And not just like a first baseman that's a normal first baseman. We're talking about like we moved Bryce Harper from right field to first base.
Yeah.
That's the type of errors that we're seeing at a Rizzo. Just rookie moving position type mistakes, which is unfortunate. But like I said before, Rizzo's not in a position to play this way and have a long-term future with the Yankees. He can
No.
hit all he wants, but guess what? Most players that the Yankees bring in that are going to play first base are also going to be able to hit 240. Okay? We're going
Yeah.
to find that somewhere. We're either going to find it with Aaron Judge moving to first base. We're either going to find it with Spencer Jones moving to first base, which
Austin Wells
Austin
was
Wells moving
taking
to first base.
grounders 2 days ago. Did you see that?
Right. So, yeah, I did see that. And I can honestly tell you Luke Voit hit 220, 240 and hit homers. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Rizzo's giving enough production offensively to warrant poor defense. He knows he's not. I know he's not. I think everybody knows his job is to be solid over there. And when we criticize this Yankees defense, he was a big part of that criticism. It wasn't just Cabrera not really figuring things out because defensively, Cabrera looked really good today at third. And the
He made the
reason
play of the
for
game.
play of the game, you know what I loved that he did, by the way? He did something that was just spectacular, something that a veteran third baseman would do. He got a ground ball, okay, from Vladdy, and he knew that he had plenty of time. Most guys that you just throw over at third base, they make a diving play, they're spinning and just firing a ball down the third base. They're just firing the ball down the
Yeah.
first base line and not making that
He was
throw.
aware of who was up, is what you're saying.
He was aware who was up. He knew the situation and he knew the clock. That's what mattered. Like he actually had a mental clock over there. And that's something that has to develop over time. It takes reps. But the fact that he did that, I know it doesn't mean everything. You still got to field and throw the ball.
No, it
But
means a
that was
lot.
nice. That was
No,
nice.
I agree. And actually, I was going to stop you. I think it was last episode when you're like, yeah, Cabrera's glove could be better. I was like, you know what? I think he's really started to improve. And I think he's getting better every game, not just at the dish, but I think, with his glove to the point where, folks, he might be the third baseman in the future. He might be the second baseman in the future. I think the point is, Cabrera was aware that this was I must succeed type of deal or I'm gone. Like it's really that simple. He's getting packaged in any deal in, July, August if he does not hit well, if he does not, come up to the plate and actually do something, if he doesn't change his approach, if he doesn't make anything in the field. And right now what we're seeing is Oswaldo Cabrera, who loves being a Yankee, and he's fighting to stay here, not just in the immediate, but also in the long term. And that should get anybody excited because that's going back to, the Buck Showalter days where, you're bringing up guys from, essentially the minors that you groomed and you developed. And now you're giving them opportunities to become that guy. And, that's how you found the core four that we always hear. I mean, you don't find that without a minor league. And so I think it's really special because we talk about how Soto had a perfect game today. We talk about how Judge, when he starts hitting, this team is going to be scary. And we talk about how Stanton is hitting. And those are three names. Only one of them has come from the farm system. But then you have guys like Volpe, and you have guys like Cabrera. And if Wells works out, then you have three guys right there from the farm system who are really making an impact on this team. And it's fun to watch when it comes to Cabrera because, I'm at the point where why not hit Cabrera third? I mean, for
He
real.
reminds me a little bit of Lindor for whatever reason. I know he doesn't have the pop that Lindor has,
Kind of
but
see
I don't
that.
know. I just get that feeling.
I think we were wrong about him.
I was 100%.
We wrote him off, and I think he's going to hit a slump, and it's going to happen. I don't know if it happens soon, but Gary, I can totally see him hitting a really bad slump where his average starts dipping and he's striking out. And this is when it's going to be our chance. Like, do you want to stay? Do you want to keep the stock or do you want to sell it? And we're going to keep it. And I could tell you there's going to be a lot of Yankee fans that are not patient with him. They're going to sell it, and then he is going to explode. And I think he's going to be huge in October because I'm already seeing
Okay.
I see the situational hitting late in games. I know today he had a chopper, but look, he's making contact, didn't strike out there. Cabrera at the plate is not the same Cabrera we saw last year at all. He's not chasing every pitch. I think he was chasing a little bit in that last at bat. I will say that. But I mean, that double that he had was huge. I just really like what we're seeing from him. And it's another potential long-term Yankee that they developed in the farm system.
We had to have it, by the way, because you're talking about, we just
100%.
brought in Soto. Soto's someone we expect to resign.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a contract that's probably going to go into the 400s or if not the 500s.
I
Now,
think it
having
hits
said that,
600.
he might hit 600 million.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to say no player's worth 600 million, but the math of it is it's 600 million broken up into 13 to 14 years.
Yeah.
That's what the cost is. So you can think or not, like you can basically believe it or not that a player's worth 600 million, but if somebody is going to give it to you, the Yankees have to spend it. Otherwise, Soto's gone. But having said that, to bring it back to the point that you were just making, is that Cabrera is someone that we didn't necessarily believe in at the beginning of the season, but what we underestimated is who's the hitting coach again for the Yankees right now?
James Rousman.
Rowson. Rowson.
Yeah.
Well, you know who else? Do you know who else is the hitting coach for the Yankees?
Juan Soto.
Juan Soto. Which player was it? Was it Aaron Judge? Was it Rizzo? Was it Stanton? Which player was it in our lineup that Wells was talking about, Verdugo was talking about? They were all talking about how they can go about their own at-bats. And there was one player on our team, for whatever reason, he just stuck out. Everyone just said, it just seems like this guy is just thinking about baseball in a completely different way that I ever thought about the game of baseball. Yeah, that's Juan Soto. He's looking at hitting the way that Tom Brady looks at playing quarterback. It's a different level. It's not about just hitting home runs or hitting 400 for a couple weeks. It's not about that. It's about turning on the game, and he genuinely looks like he's taking an at-bat October 15th for this team, and it's freaking April.
Yeah.
Okay? That has to impact Cabrera. It has to impact Wells. Now, whether guys are hitting or not, it's going to have its impact over the course of 600 plate appearances. I believe that. So the Yankees, to their credit, they went and traded for Birdie. Okay. Give Brian Cashman credit. They traded for him, and we said right off the rip, this is a message to those young players. You guys haven't solidified a role at all at third base. We don't know which one of you guys is going to be playing third base. Are we platooning? Are you guys going to just win the job straight up? What's going to happen? Or are we just going to have essentially a stopgap third baseman until next year? And long behold, Cabrera separated himself. He has separated himself from the entire pack. There is not one player on this team I want at third base more than Cabrera. Not one.
No, I don't want anybody over Cabrera right now. And I don't think that's going to change. I just, it's like you see the signs, and I mean, just scouting prospects in general, regardless of what sport you're talking about, you're going to swing and miss on any prospect. I mean, it's certainly possible, but there are ones that just give off that aura, and you're like, okay, well, Gary, what they're doing is exhibiting signs, right? That's why I love Judge coming out of Fresno State. That's why I wanted Aaron Judge. I wanted the Yankees to draft Aaron Judge. They had 3 picks in that draft. They draft Ian Clark and Eric Jagiello before Judge. I was not happy, but then
You were losing your mind.
Judge fell into their lap, and they took him with the Nick Swisher pick. So they had the compensatory pick for Nick Swisher signing elsewhere. I think it was Cleveland.
I knew I liked Nick Swisher.
Dude, that's the thing. No one talks about that. That was huge. Clarkin grew up a Red Sox fan, so you knew he wasn't going to pan out. No, I'm kidding. But Clarkin didn't pan out.
True.
Clarkin didn't pan out, so they ended up trading him away. Jagiello went to the Reds, the shortstop from Notre Dame. He went to the Reds for I want to say no, never. No, it was for Chapman, I think, actually. I think they traded both of those guys for Aroldis Chapman. So yeah, I mean, point being, I saw something in Judge, and the first thing I thought of when I watched that 6'7" freak at defensive end at the plate, I was like, that's Giancarlo Stanton. I was like, that is Stanton. That guy's going to be Stanton. And
it sounds ridiculous saying that, but he is literally Giancarlo Stanton. In his MVP year, he plays pretty much the same brand of baseball.
Yeah, before Stanton
defense.
lost all his athleticism and all that.
Exactly. Which all injury related. I don't think people really acknowledge.
He had some serious injuries. I mean, he missed 2 straight years almost the entire year, both times. But I guess the point I'm making here is, I saw that with Judge. But I also thought Joe Adele was going to be special. I thought Daz Cameron was going to be a superstar. You know what I mean? Like, there are guys that I've seen in the past where it's like they step out and you're like, oh my God. And this is not just baseball. I've seen this for football as well. But with Cabrera, he's exhibiting these things, that you see and you're like, he's made gains. He's improved, and that's all you really want to see. But Gary, I know this is pretty much has been the hitting episode, but there was pitching, and I thought, let's talk about Stroman. I thought today he was efficient. I know he gave up 2 runs. Wasn't really much of a strikeout day to him. Just 6 innings, or 6 hits. 5 and a third. I thought he pitched well.
He made 2 bad pitches.
Yeah, I mean, mistake pitch, that's going to happen. Not as bad as Ferguson. My God. I will say this. Caleb Ferguson and Luke Weaver, I tweeted this out. They are pulling away. They are separating themselves from the pack, and not the way you want to separate yourself. They look like by far the weakest links of the bullpen. And also, shout out, Ian Hamilton had a good outing. 2 strikeouts.
And Gonzalez.
Is
Gonzalez our new, what's his name? Peralta?
Doesn't he look kind of like Wandy? He has like the same like motion and everything.
He does have, similar. Yeah.
Victor Gonzalez, you guys might not even realize this, had the easiest job today. He threw 2 pitches and won the game.
I hate baseball. It's such a stupid rule. Relievers shouldn't get wins ever. You can't even make the argument to me that Marcus Stroman can pitch 5 and a third. Like, let's just pretend
he only gave up 2 runs. The Yankees at one point had 2 runs going into the 9th.
And I'm not saying Stroman deserves a win, but I get what you're saying. Is that you can throw 8 innings, the team can blow the lead, and then one of the pitchers that throws essentially during the inning to preserve the lead gets the win. That's stupid. That does not make sense. That's the reason Weaver has like 3 wins this year.
Yeah, well, I'm okay with Gonzalez finally getting a win. He's pitched well enough to get a win. It's just hilarious. He only threw 2 pitches, bro. 2 pitches, and he pitched a third of an inning.
That's efficiency, baby.
Um,
That is efficiency.
Klay Holmes shut the door again. Everyone was going crazy because he gave up a single. Why can't he just have a 1-2-3 inning? Well, that's just not the way some things work. And by the way, the closer's job is to preserve the lead and close out the game. The closer's job is not necessarily to strike out 3 in a row. Okay. And I think I'm starting to understand why people are spoiled, because when it comes to Klay Holmes, I had my concerns because last year Klay Holmes scared me, right? This year he had some moments during the year where he gave up some hits. It's okay to give up hits.
What's
It's
his ERA?
totally fine to give up hits. 0. The fact is, Gary, we were spoiled having Mariano Rivera for years, where he would come in and he'd strike out 3 guys and he'd have 3 pitches and they couldn't hit him. But Klay Holmes, as soon as he gives up a hit, and see, I used to be in this camp, and I'm telling you right now, as long as Klay Holmes doesn't fall off a cliff, even if he gives up some runs, even if he blows some saves, which everyone does, I'm still going to be in this camp. Klay Holmes is one of the best closers in baseball. And I'm starting to see why when he, early on in the season, when I gave him, and I wasn't even giving him, flack, it's just from last year watching him pitch, not being as effective and just kind of giving me that vibe like this isn't a safe lead. Do you know, I thought this was a guarantee. When they took a 6-4 lead, I was like, this game's over. Klay Holmes is pitching. This game is over. They have no chance. They gave up that hit. There were people freaking out. Oh, this is the beginning. I was not worried in the slightest, because guess what? Judge could easily dive and make that play. He's done it before. But why would he dive and make that play if you have a 2-run lead? Why give that? Could have been an inside the park home run if he misses. So he's just
First
I'm just
off,
going to
yeah,
let it
you
fall in
don't.
front of me.
Yeah, so if you're Judge, you don't ever leave your feet in that situation. You're talking about just putting someone in scoring position if you don't get the ball right away.
Exactly. It's too much of a risk.
But having said that, just this whole argument about that, like Holmes isn't Mariano, which obviously there is not a closer in today's game that's Mariano Rivera. Okay,
No.
I don't care who they are. There's not a closer in the game in 15 years that's Mariano Rivera. That's not the way this is going to work. So, but that aside, this is what I want to remind people of. Who cares if every once in a while Klay Holmes comes out there and you say, oh shit, he doesn't have his stuff today. Very obvious, right?
Yeah.
It's not often enough to raise a red flag that this is an issue for this team. Now, you could make the argument that Aroldis Chapman was that type of issue for the Yankees. In the postseason, Aroldis Chapman blew games for Chicago. He blew games for us on the biggest stage, okay? Not once, not twice, consistently. We're talking 3, 4, 5 different occasions that he gave up big hits. What's Klay Holmes done? Klay Holmes has been good. The reason this Yankees team, I brought this up last episode, I want to make sure I bring this home. The Yankees haven't won a World Series because they can't score, okay?
Yeah.
The hardest thing to do in this sport is to score. That's what we were doing. When we brought Juan Soto into this team, we said, what does this team need? They need a left-handed bat. They need somebody who's not just focused on hitting home runs, but being more of a complete hitter. That's what Cabrera talks about. It's what Verdugo talks about. It's the reason we brought him in as well. We want more guys that help us score. And that's what we did. So if we can't sit around and just harp on all these different things that the Yankees could potentially get better at, because you know what? Every single team in baseball has something that they could get better at.
Yeah.
And we have to pick our battles. And on this podcast, at least for me personally, Jake has full authority to have a different take on it. But in my opinion, if this Yankees team can score, that's the most important thing. As long as they're scoring, they're going to have the ability through Matt Blake to get more out of less. And when Garrett Cole comes back, I'm not worried about the pitching. I'm worried about scoring. If we can score, we are going to win. So it's just a matter of if they do it or not.
Yeah. I think to wrap it up, I thought Kevin Kiermaier deserves some credit. 3 for 3 today with a walk. Could
Didn't
definitely
have
see why
that
a lot of
happen.
people wanted him in the offseason. Uh, Dalton Varsho had a 2 home run day, which was bizarre. But shout out to him. That's a good day at the office. The top of the order all had hits. I thought, the Yankees did a really nice job in rallying, but I thought Toronto deserved to win this game and the Yankees stole it. And I thought Gosman pitched pretty well, which I expected. We talked about this and you said that I was you were messing with me, but being more on the side of not wanting to jinx anything. But I thought Kevin Gosman pitched well. Nice response for him. I thought
We
the
didn't expect
bullpen.
that stuff to bounce back like that, did you? I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I did.
remember, he
I
was
did.
throwing 90 to 91, which he
Well,
blamed
as
on the
long as
weather.
they cleared him for any injury, once I realized that, I was like, okay, when they blamed on the weather, I think maybe he just didn't have his best stuff. The weather might have something to do with it, but I think I had a pretty good idea Gosman was going to be tough today. Remember, I said the Yankees win this game 2-1, or like a
You did.
1-0 game. Like I said, it'd be
Yes.
really close. Eric Swanson, to wrap this up, gave up 3 earned runs in his first outing today. So he has an 81 ERA. He gets a hold.
This is the dumbest sport. Why do we podcast for this stuff? Why are you, if you're still sitting here watching the show, why do you watch us podcast for this stupid game who has rules like that?
What is a hold, by the way? Like what does that mean? So he came in and he existed when you were winning, and so he hold, even though he gave up 3 runs.
He was just on the mound. His ERA looks like your blood pressure, and he's getting a hold. Get out of here.
Oh man, it's funny though, because it's just, you don't see it that often. Like holds don't get awarded out like hotcakes, but in that sense, that's funny because it wasn't necessarily a save opportunity, because that's right, they're down by 4. No, it was a save. Why is that not a blown save?
They gave the blown save to Mazda.
Yeah, I guess I don't really get that. Oh well, that's for another time. 7:05 on Friday at the stadium. Tyler Alexander is going to be going up against Clark Schmidt. Those are the projected starters. The Yankees have not.
Tyler Alexander.
I've never heard of him. He's got a 6.46 ERA, 1.63 WHIP. Given up 5 home runs this year. So Bronx Bombers are coming out on Friday. I think anyway.
We're getting Aaron Judge.
65. Yeah, 65-degree day. You kidding me?
Aaron Judge is taking lift off.
They are, yeah. Look, nothing against the Rays. I think the Yankees win this. I think this is one of those games where you will see, going back to the original point that I made earlier in the show, that my friend Evan brought up, finishing off the series is more important than how you started the first 2 games of a series. And that to me is going to show up in this one. I think the Yankees bats are going to be alive. Again, I also think in warmer weather, and I'm not saying 65 is warm, but it's warmer. And I think in that type of weather, I think they're going to be coming out and being an offensive team. And man, Soto right now hitting 352. After some of those series, Soto was the only one hitting for the most part. I wouldn't be surprised if Soto had some Soto bombs at the stadium in this series.
I said Soto was winning the batting title, didn't I?
I would be shocked if he doesn't. And if he doesn't win the batting title, maybe it's Volpe that won it. Because, I mean, at this point, I know he had a bad series. I also think Volpe is going yard. I think he's going to be back. I think it was a bad series against Toronto, but he'll be fine. I really think
he was butt in this series. He was bad, man.
Yeah, and I really think you flush that series away. It's like getting blown out, 18-run day, right? You give up 18 runs, unless you're Colorado, then you frequently do stuff like that. But, you give up 18 runs, it's like, all right, we're throwing that tape away. There's nothing we can learn from that. You just move on. And that's why I think this series, for the most part, they're going to just move on from it. And you get an opportunity to do it against a division rival.
Let's do it. Yeah. I mean, hey, we actually got a Friday game at a good time.
A normal time. Oh my
Yeah, at a normal
goodness.
time. So I'm sure we'll be podcasting later that night. But
We
hopefully
don't
after a
care.
win.
Like, that's the thing. We don't care about the late podcasting. We just don't like day games. Because, I mean, a night game, seeing all those Yankee fans in attendance, it's just so much more aesthetically pleasing. Also, it helps the Yankees. I mean, let's be honest here. Home field advantage exists. But when you watch a day game and there's like 5 people out there, you're like, why did they do this? Why?
It's so bad. They did it with the Dodgers earlier today.
It,
There was literally, it looked like 3 people out there.
and their traffic is worse. So
Their
it's
traffic's
like,
terrible.
I don't, yeah. And then they put it on Fox. So they showcase the game, and then people are like, baseball has no fans. Like, there you go. It never fails. But anyway, we could talk all day, Gary, but we're going to wrap this thing up. Appreciate you guys, as always, for watching. Be sure to follow me at JK Bogan, follow Gary at Gary Sheffield Jr., and follow the podcast at Yankees Unloaded on all social media. So we'll be back. Until next time, guys, you take care.
And like this video.